When the Clone Army was created for the Republic, they needed more than just the Jedi to lead them. Because of this, outstanding clone troopers became clone commanders within the Clone Army. But what exactly were these clone commanders? Well, in today's video, I break down everything we know about who the clone commanders were.
For the Republic!
Made for their roles, clone commanders were the highest ranking clones in the Republic Army and took on a variety of roles. But before any of that could happen, they had to be created. In canon, the clone commanders were created just like every single other clone trooper and had no genetic difference compared to them. In Legends, however, this was not the case, and the clone commanders were specifically bred for their role. Among many things, they were bred to be more autonomous, had a stronger sense of coordination, and were more tactically minded. All three of these things helping them fulfill their role to the best of their ability. As they moved into training, once again, there were some key differences between Legends and canon, but both of them started with flash training like every other clone. And we also know that the clone commanders had their own dedicated academy separate from the rest of the clone trooper training. However, beyond that, the split between Legends and canon begins. In canon, the details about their training is not very full. However, we do know that they received a wide range of extra training and that most of the original clone commanders received ARC trooper training, though not every clone commander would receive this ARC trooper training. One example of this would be Pawns. Similarly, many clone commanders could go through extra training to teach them to work as a liaison between the Jedi and the clones below them. But once again, not every clone commander would receive this training. Additionally, in canon, it is often assumed that the clone commanders had a different set of trainers compared to the regular clones. The best example of this is the fact that clone commander Bacara is said to have been trained by an ex-journeyman protector in canon, and this is a fact that is shared in Legends as well. Speaking of Legends, their training was a bit different. We know that they had all of the aforementioned specialized training and trainers from canon, but we also know much more information about the ARC Trooper training program. In Legends, this program was founded by Alpha Arc 77, and the first round of it took place just a few months into the war, accepting 100 members as graduates. These participants were put through a grueling ARC Trooper training and once graduated earned the title of ARC Commanders. This not only gave them an additional set of skills to use on the battlefield, but also gave them more armor customization, which I will talk about in a little bit. Now, before we move on from training, it's also worth mentioning the different ranks of the clone commanders. In canon, there were two different clone commander ranks, the standard clone commander and then the clone marshal commander. Standard clone commanders could lead everything from battalions all the way up to legions and even had authority over fleets at times. On the other hand, there were the clone marshal commanders, of which there was only 40 of them, and they each led one of the corps in the Grand Army of the Republic, though all commanders could take on leadership roles of smaller units below them when needed. In Legends, the breakdown of their ranks is much more complex, as there were 4 tiers of clone commanders. At the lowest level, you had clone battalion commanders, who led battalions. Above them, you had clone regimental commanders who led regiments, and above them you had senior clone commanders who led legions. Finally, you had the clone marshal commanders just like in canon, and just like in canon there was only 40 of them. And in both Legends and canon we only know of 4 clone marshal commanders, those being Cody, Bacara, Neo, and Bly. Cody leading the 7th Sky Corps, Bacara leading the 21st Nova Corps, Neo the 91st Mobile Reconnaissance Corps, and Bly the 327th Star Corps. Once the clone commanders had graduated from their training, they were deployed to the warfront. And surprisingly, they had many responsibilities that one might not think of. Aside from obviously leading their unit that they were assigned to, clone commanders had many other smaller responsibilities as well, one of which I have already mentioned before, which was making sure that they acted as a liaison between the Jedi and the clones below them, a crucial role in making sure the army ran smoothly. And this role also had smaller responsibilities attached to it, like because they were the liaison with the Jedi, they often had to attend strategy conferences with said Jedi, which we get a good example of during the Clone Wars. Aside from this, clone commanders were also given special assignments, like commanders Neo and Bacara, who were in charge of developing the tactics and attack patterns for the new BARC speeders. However, in order to accomplish all of these tasks and responsibilities, the clone commanders needed their armor and weaponry, but what exactly did they use? Well, at the start of the Clone Wars, all clone commanders were given standard Phase 1 clone armor with yellow markings and their rank depicted by 4 dots on their chest plate. However, as the war ramped up and the clone legions and clone troopers in those legions developed their own unique armor, so too did the clone commanders. In Legend, the addition of things like commas, pauldrons, and microbinoculars all came after the clone commanders graduated the ARC Trooper training program, as this program was the reason that they could add these to their kit because they normally were part of the ARC Troopers armor. In canon though, this is not the case, and their customization using things like commas and pauldrons was either a result of their rank or just a byproduct of them customizing their armor. Regardless, as the war progressed, the clone armor was not the only thing that developed, as the clone commanders became more developed as well. Now, because of their leadership role and in Legends because of their increased autonomy, each clone commander would quickly make a name for themselves and their personalities would quickly start to stand out. For example, Bacara became known for his very aggressive tactics and his extreme success as a strategist and tactician. But each clone commander always led very successfully on the field and had very successful careers years, serving the Republic honorably. As the Clone Wars came to an end and the Empire rose to power, the clone commanders were allowed to keep their rank and continue to lead in a commander capacity under the Empire. However, with time, many clone commanders would either be phased out or straight up desert from the Empire as a whole. With that being said though, we've explained exactly who the clone commanders were and what they did for the Republic. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this.